Al Jazeera has spoken to US President Donald Trump. In the call, exclusive to Al Jazeera English, the president addressed the Iran war. Our correspondent Tanya Nouri asked him if he believes economic warfare will be more effective than military strikes and said, "I think they are both effective." He was then asked how much time he plans to give Iran to come back to the negotiating table. And he said, "I have no time schedule, none. I'm not in a hurry," he said. "I have no time schedule at all. We are winning very big. They've got massive inflation. Their economy is falling apart. They're treating their people very badly. They are killing many, many protesters. I have no time schedule, whatever it takes." Well, shopkeepers in Iran's southern port city of Bandar Abbas say expanded US sanctions are worsening economic hardship. Tehran has denounced the new measures as gross lawlessness. Some business owners, though, say they can weather the storm, but the sanctions are making an already tough situation even harder.
Under any circumstances, sanctions do inflict blows. The rise in the exchange rate affects life and livelihood. But ultimately, we are Iranian, and Iranians know how to bypass sanctions as well.
In the way that we are under pressure, we are 100% distressed. The youth have many grievances against the officials who really, in my opinion, they are the traitors. Why? Because they truly do not attend to the people suffering. To me, being a responsible official means that the person should not rest.
All right, let's go to our correspondent Tanya Nouri, who's live for us at the White House. Tanya, so you spoke to the US president directly. What was your take from that phone call?
Yeah, so I called the president a little after 8 a.m. Eastern time here in Washington, D.C., and he seemed like he was in a good mood. He took 3 different questions from me, and I asked him about the war in Iran and his new strategy about the economic sanctions rather than a military campaign. And he told me that he thinks that both are equally as effective. And then I questioned him on how long this war can go, especially now that we're approaching the 6-month mark on Friday. And he said that he has no timetable, he has no schedule, and he is prepared to let this go as long as necessary.
Right, and Tanya, you pressed him. My understanding is on reports that the director of the CIA was in Moscow. What did Trump have to say to you about that exactly?
So there was a C-17 aircraft that is reported to have been carrying the CIA director, John Ratcliffe. And when I asked him about it, he said he didn't want to get into it. And he later had an interview on a radio station, and he also didn't really get into it either. So as of now, we don't have a lot of information on what exactly that visit consisted of.
All right, thank you. So, Tanya, when it comes to this conversation with Donald Trump, I know he's been speaking to some media. He's spoken to us. Did he give any indication where he stands with this war at the moment?
He did not specifically give any indication, aside from the fact that he said that he is prepared to, he has no timetable, and he is ready to let this war go as long as necessary. And as the 6-month mark nears, the midterms in America are approaching in November. And so that is something that he says he's in no rush, he has no timetable, and he's prepared to let this go as long as necessary.
All right, and Tanya, you know, we have been hearing from Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, talking about more details on these economic sanctions and the economic pressure that the US plans to put on Iran, but not just Iran. Talk us through those latest updates there.
Yes, that is something that the United States has been discussing, especially coming from the White House. And President Trump believes, as he said in his phone call with me earlier today, that he believes that these are just as effective as the bombing air campaign that they did in Iran. And so this is something that is definitely going to, appears to be continuing in a new strategy for the United States.
And Tanya, do we know if the US president is negotiating at all with Iran, at least through mediators? Has there been any conversation on that or any confirmation at all?
The White House and the president have repeatedly said that they are in conversations with the Iranians about ending the war in Iran. It is not clear how far ahead those negotiations are or how often they are communicating, but the White House has certainly said that they are in communication with the Iranians about ending the war.
And when it comes to military action, obviously we're 6 months in. What's the sort of sentiment, perhaps in the US, as to whether they want to go ahead with this military action, whether it's from the officials or even from the public in the US?
Here in the United States, especially with the United States presence in the Middle East, they have not retracted any of their forces. So the amount of forces that they put into the region ahead of going into the war and the amount of forces that they've moved into the region since, they all are still there. And so if the president decided that he wanted to switch back to a military campaign, they have the assets in the region to do so. And so that is something that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on, how they choose to use those U.S. forces in the future.
Tanya, Iran has made it very clear that it's been working on this deal with Oman. Have we had any comment whether it's with this recent statement coming out of Iran that they've potentially got a deal when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz? We don't know what those details are just yet. But do we have any comment from the US on that? And what's the American rhetoric been when it comes to a potential deal between Iran and Oman?
The White House has not provided any comment on that sort of deal that's going on with Iran or potential deal between Iran and Oman. And so that is something that we're keeping an eye on here at the White House to see if there's any reaction to it. But as of now, we have not heard anything in recent days.
But in terms of US reaction generally, when it comes to this Omani deal, I mean, a few months ago, Trump had threatened Oman. We don't seem to have seen that recently, have we?
We have not seen that recently. President Trump did have very choice words for Oman if they were to get involved with the Iranians, and he did threaten to bomb them if they would have had some sort of alliance there, but we have not heard any update from the U.S. side on what the status of that relationship and alliance is.
All right, thank you very much, our reporter Tanya Nouri speaking to us there from the White House.